This is actually a third example problem. This is an example of free falling body. Okay? The fluid medium here is the air. Okay? So sa air, since free falling body man ni siya, ang fluid medium kay ang air magod is a fluid. Water is also a fluid. Mo na natay fluid mechanics. Okay, which will be discussed. Abot ko na may fluid mechanics karon no.
Wala, sir.
Ay wala. Ay base next sem pa. So, mo na kung fluid mechanics, it could be in water, it could be in air, unsa pa man. Murag, yeah, those are some examples na mga fluids. So anyway, I would like to read this problem. During a test, a rocket travels upward at 75 meters per second. And when it is 40 meters from the ground, its engine fails. Oh, imagine. Determine the maximum height, or SB, it can reach by the rocket and its speed just before it hits the ground. While in motion, the rocket is subjected to a constant downward acceleration of 9.81 meters per second squared due to gravity. So this is um, may bawa na dayon nimo na acceleration is constant. So this is a free falling body na example. And neglect the effect of air resistance. So walay makonsider sa analysis nato ang effect of air resistance when we solve the problem. And ang answer nato, ang ato ang what do you call this? Maximum height is 327 meters and the velocity when it hits the ground is 80.1 meter per second squared. Meter per second rather. Okay, so let us solve this problem. So just a solution for this one. So solution. So ang first natong buhaton is unsang iyahang maximum height, which is represented with SB. Okay? So for us to determine the maximum height, or if you encounter a free falling body, what you need to do is you locate the initial point and the final point. Okay? So sa letter A, which is the maximum height, or it is represented with SB, the points na ito ang i-consider dire is starting from point A going to point B. So, mao na tong point A, this one. Then as it goes upward, it ends here, dire sa point B. So, it is actually from point to point. So, it is from A to B. And also, sa each point, i-identify nato ang value given based on the problem. So at point A, natay initial velocity or the VA that is 75 meters per second. Given na siya sa problem nato. Ang initial position sa point A, which is it measures from the origin, is equal to 40 meters. The same thing with point B. So at point B, um, velocity when it reached the maximum height is 0. Take note ha, when it reached the maximum height, its velocity is always 0. And the position sa point B, which is the maximum height, is unknown. So mo na tong pangitaon. So unsa na equation atong gamiton for us to determine the So for us to determine the maximum height of the rocket,
Third, sir.
it is the third equation. So unsa itong mga equation nato ang ginagamit dire? Oops, sorry. So ang third equation, kung i-review ninyo ang equations, other three equations, natay velocity as a function of time, natay position as a function of time, and velocity as a function of position. So since ang given nato is velocity and position, so the velocity as a function of position ang gamiton nato na equation for us to determine the maximum height of the rocket. So the equation would be um liko na ko dire. So that would be v squared is equal to VO squared plus 2AC S minus SO. So say meaning ng nay O, it means that it is initial. Ang walay O or walay subscript, meaning that is the final. So ang V nato sa left side, that is the final velocity, and ang nasa S na walay subscript, that is the final position. So for us to use this one, we substitute the letters that represents the initial and final position nato, or the initial and final points. So ang initial point nato is letter A, the final point is the letter B. So what happens here? Ang V nato dire would be VB squared because that is your final velocity. Initial velocity is A, so that is V squared. 2, AC is the constant acceleration, which is represented with a gravity, so that is G. And S is the final position, so that is SB, minus the initial position, which is the SA. The same thing atong gibuhat sa previous problem, especially sa pag-identify sa sense of direction. For this one, we actually choose upward as a positive, what do you call this? Positive direction nato. So, kay tungod from point A to point B, ang movement niya is going upward. So therefore, pag consider nato diri sa sense of direction nato, pagsulat nato kilid sa atong equation, ang upward nato would be a positive direction. So for this one, that would be a positive direction, ang upward. So we just substitute the values. VB is 0. So mas simple ni siya kay dili na mag-integrate, dili na mag-derivative. VA is 75 squared plus 2 times unsang value nato sa gravity?
9.81.
Unsay sign sa gravity nato na i-substitute sa equation?
Negative.
Is it positive or negative?
Negative.
It is actually negative. Nga naman negative? It is because downward acceleration man siya. Gi-state man dire downward acceleration of 9.81 due to gravity. And since we consider that the positive sense of direction is upward, so ang gravity would be a negative 9.81. Okay? So mao na importante jud na kay i-establish na sense of direction kilid sa imong equation. So for this one, that would be negative 9.81. SB na to, mao nang unknown. minus SA 40. Okay, so what would be the answer for your SB? What's the answer of your maximum height? Di ba mas short na kayo ang iyang solution? Pila man itong answer sa maximum height? Hello? Napamudira? Pwede din ako kabalo magkuan, mag-solve ani. Y calculator, unsa ba?
Three 27, sir.
327 meters. Positive or negative? It is a positive
Positive.
value. So that would be 327 meters. Okay? So that is the maximum height reached by your rocket. Okay? From point A to point B. Okay? So from the initial point na A going to the final point B nimo. Okay? So that would be your answer for the maximum height. Now let us proceed to the last part, which is the speed. Speed niya just before it hits the ground. So, unsa daw ang iyang speed just before it hits the ground? So the same thing gihapon sa first one, point to point ka. So kaning speed just before it hits the ground, unsa ang imong initial point? You actually start from point B, then you go to point C. Okay? Pwede pod point A to point C. Pwede po na siya. Kay you will come up with the same answer gihapon. Pero kani para mas dali, we actually consider from point B to point C since ang iyang from the upward motion downward pabalik naman siya ground, so downward na dahil ng iyahang motion ana. So from that it would be from B to C. So the same thing atong gibuhat, ang sa B nato, VB is still 0. SB is mo na tong gi-solve kanina, 327 meters. At point C, ang given nato, mo na tong initial point, point B, then pababa, going to point C. So ato ang VC, wa ta kabalo. So mao man atong gipangita diri sa problem. And SC, pila man atong SC nato? Pila ang position sa point C nato? What will be the position of point C nato?
0, sir.
0 because it is actually within the origin. So therefore, your SC is 0. And the equation na gamiton nato for us to determine the speed just before it hits the ground or the velocity of point C is the same kanina. Okay? it is the velocity as a function of position. So which is v squared is equal to VO squared plus 2AC S minus SO. So again, imong initial point is point B, final point is point C. So you will rewrite this as VC squared, that is your final point. VO is your VB plus 2G because your constant acceleration is still the gravity. Final position is your SC minus the initial position is SA. Okay, so VC squared, mao na itong gipangita. So as is lang siya. VB is 0. So that would be 0 squared plus 2 times negative 9.81. Okay? Nga naman negative 9.81 na ito gi-consider dire. Um, I forgot to include here again. If ever you consider the sense of direction na ang upward is positive. So for you, when you substitute the kaling mga acceleration and the velocity, dira ang imong indication kung positive ba siya or negative. So since upward nimo is still positive, so what you will do is the um, gravity nimo is still a negative 9.81. So ang SC is 0 minus, ay nga no, SA. That would be SB. Kay B and C naman ato ang gamiton. So that would be 327 meters. Okay? So pila man atong answer ana? VC squared man. Pila man atong answer diri sa right side?
80.09.
Kung i-square root, kung dili pa square root, pilang pa man? Kung dili pa siya i-square root. So 2 times negative 9.81 times negative
6,409.2, sir.
6,409.2.
409.2. 9.2.
6,400. Ay, okay. Sorry. 6,492. Correct? Tama ba?
Six four zero nine.
So, to, sige, solve na lang na ako. Negative 327. 6,415. 6,415 man. 6,415. Okay. 6,415 dahil. Sorry. 6,415. 5.74. Okay? So, square root lang nato both sides of the equation. Again, di ba pag square root, duha ka answer, positive or negative? 6,415. Ay, sorry. Mao ni ang square root sa 6,415. Ilang square root sa 6,415? That is equal
80.0.
to 80.09 or
80.01.
So that would be 80.1 meter per second. But the question, unsa to gamiton? Is it the positive or the negative value? Unsa to?
Negative, sir.
It is the
Negative.
negative. Since downward man ato ang movement and ang ato ang gi-assume man jud sa equation pag solve sa anina problem is upward is positive. So ato gamito na sign is the negative that represents the downward movement. Okay? So therefore, your final answer would be VC is equal to negative 80.1 meter per second, or ang negative nimo represents the direction, so that is 80.1 meter per second downward. Okay? So that would be your answer. So actually sa free falling body, mas dali siya compare with the first two example problems, di ba? Kay since the acceleration is constant, so you just only substitute directly the values.